one of the things that we have to do is we have to make sure that we are protective, so protective of these anchoring moments with our families every single day. In my family, the family dinner get-togethers, I would say for the most part, are almost a non-negotiable. You will always find, no matter how busy the Hagners are, you will find us almost every night gathered around the dinner table in some way, shape, or form. At least 70% of the time, you'll find us at the dinner table, which I think is a really special thing, because that is something that I think is really, really lost. And I think that's something that we could easily get back to, is meals around the table. I mean, if you really talk to people who are adults now, some of their most fondest memories and bonding moments were over a daily family meal. All right, so the headlines are screaming layoffs. There's inflation, there's rising costs, there's stress at work, and it's higher than ever. But here's the truth. Our kids don't give a crap about our stresses and the Dow Jones and all that. What they actually care about is the Dad Jones. They care if we're grounded. They care if we're present. They care if we are actually here. So, and as men, here's the thing. We can't always control the economy. We can't always control the things that are going on in the outside world, but we can control the atmosphere in our homes. And when the stress is high, it's how we show up, and it's how we stabilize our family, or do we add to the chaos? Gentlemen, what is going on? My name is Larry Hagner. I am the proud father of 4 boys. I'm the lucky husband of a woman I've been married to for the past 22 years. I am the host of the Dad Edge podcast, and I started this show because I was the guy who wanted to be a better man, a better husband, and a better dad. And I didn't always know how to do it. So over the past decade, I have built the Dad Edge podcast. I am also the founder of the Dad Edge Alliance, which that is our powerhouse community for men who are leveling up in marriage, parenting, leadership. It's also for our guys. The Alliance is also for our guys who are career guys. I am also the founder of the Dad Edge Business Owner Brotherhood. That's our elite mastermind for entrepreneurs who aren't okay with average. These are men who want to crush it in business and still want to be present and connected and be powerful in the home. And I'm not talking about powerful as in like powerful. I'm talking about being a powerful presence of positivity, a powerful presence of good. And along the way, of building this entire organization, this podcast, this movement, and this community, I've had the opportunity to interview some amazing people like Matthew McConaughey and John Bernthal and Jocko Willink. And I'm actually, in a couple of weeks here, I'm flying out to Nashville to interview Kirk Cameron in person. I've also interviewed people like Chris Daughtry and Nikki Sixx and hundreds more in this space called fatherhood. And I'll tell you, I've learned a ton, and I've been able to share it on this podcast. But you know, it doesn't really immune me from making, bonehead mistakes, that's why this entire platform and everything that I do and everything that we talk about in the show, it's all about learning. So today I'm going to give you guys 3 tactical nuggets of ways that we can be more the thermostat in the home instead of the thermometer. So in other words, where we can actually we can be the lowest heartbeat in the room. We can create that calm. We can create that peace. If you really think about it, this might sound kind of narcissistic, and I don't mean it to be at all, but I really want to shine the spotlight here on dads, because dads, they really can be the thermostat in the family. And what I mean by that is I think we can all relate to when we grew up, like our dads, or if you grew up without a dad, maybe as a parent, but you always knew what you were kind of in for by the energy and the tonality and just the very presence of your parents. Or let's just talk about your dad, or even your dad. Like, you could tell, did dad have a good day or a bad day at work? And, is his good day going to mean we're going to have a good evening, or is a bad day mean we're going to have a bad evening? Is dad going to be crabby? Should I not talk to him? Should I not, get in his way, and that kind of thing. Like, I think we all remember times like that. And we also remember times where our dad had tremendous positive energy and how great that felt. And we probably, as a kid, you probably wanted more of it, right? So us now being us, meaning we as dads, and all you guys listening to the show, me included, we have this tremendous opportunity to be that thermostat. We have this tremendous opportunity that if we grew up, in an environment where it was unpredictable, or it was unsafe, or it felt like shaky ground, we now have that opportunity to create and break the pattern of the things that we experienced growing up. And now we can actually create the environment that we truly want. But the problem is that it's hard for us to do that. We have a lot of moving parts in our mind, in our heart, in our day, the things that come at us. So like I said, in this podcast, I'm going to give you guys 3 tactical nuggets that will help you. And these are simple, like really, really simple ways that you can just allow your family a little bit more peace and a little bit more peace for yourself. The first one is to have a transition ritual. So, you know what? When I first started podcasting, this was before COVID. This was before a lot of us were even allowed to work remotely. I mean, kind of working remotely was like this, I guess, like for certain industries, but not all. But now just about every industry, you can pretty much work from home if you have an office job. So I used to talk a lot about like the commute home from work. You know, you can use that as a transition time, or you can take a walk or something like that. But I'll tell you, a lot of us now, we are within 10 feet of our families and our workplaces. I know I am. So I can log off Zoom and then literally, or log off a coaching call with one of my one-on-one clients, or log off a podcast, or log off of, you know, facilitating a group coaching session with my clients. And literally within one minute, I be in toe to toe with one of my family members. And I'll tell you, as a man and as a provider, not all days are wonderful, right? You guys know this. And just because I'm in this space of the dad space, that doesn't mean all my days are wonderful. Like I still deal with tremendous challenge at times. I still deal with like things that, you know, can really disrupt my day, my mentality, like can really stress me out. I mean, like we have 700 men in our alliance. That's 700 group clients. I have 9 one-on-one clients. You know, we have 50 guys in our Dad Edge Business Brotherhood. I have 50 people, 50 coaches that work for me on top of all this. So, you know, it's not only, I have like my work family, like which I would call all my clients and all my leadership team and everybody who works for me. And then obviously there's the real family, my most important family, which is my wife and kids. And all of these people in my life and all of these things, all these moving parts, there's a lot of demand there, and there's a lot of demand for time, a lot of demand for what people need. And, you know, that's my world. And I know that is the world of most men, you know, out there. And that can be something that can really tax us. So, you know, on days that you're working remote, right? You could be on Zoom, you could be anywhere. And I'll tell you, man, Zoom fatigue is a real thing. Like a lot of people, like if they're in the corporate world and they're on like 5 hours of Zoom calls a day, like that will fry your brain. It really, really does. It can also be that if you're in a blue collar job, you could be exhausted by the time you get home, depending on what you do. And, or if you're doing second shift work, or if you're a first responder and you're on like a 24-hour shift. I mean, like these things are real. You need a transition ritual. So whether it be that you're in your office, or whether it be you're on your way home, or you might be just physically exhausted from what you're doing for a living, having a transition ritual is something that's so important. So like for me, I'll give you an example. For me, there's a couple different things that I'll do. I might, you know, do some deep breathing, or I might listen to some music before I step out of my office, or I might meditate, or I might get into the word. I might get into scripture. That's a beautiful pattern interrupt to calm my mind, you know, to get into something a little bit more positive. And it just takes my focus away from anything that is necessarily bad into something that's pretty positive. Another thing that I might do is I might just go for like literally a 10-minute walk, and that's like around the block. Just get some sunlight, get some fresh air. You know, a lot of people have a drive, you know, commute home. A lot of people are like, well, my wife wouldn't appreciate that. My wife is just fine with it. In fact, she would rather that I'd go take a walk versus, you know, just dive right into try to be dad. And if I've had a bad day, you know, or I haven't had that transition, it's not going to be good. So give your family the gift of your presence. Give your family the gift of your positivity, if all possible. It's not always possible, but it could be for most days. But give yourself something. Give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of space. I talk a lot about this with my one-on-one clients. I talk a lot about this in my community. I was like, look, you know, you wouldn't expect to run a 400-meter dash without warming up. I mean, you see this all the time in like track and field. My kids used to run track, and before any race, I mean, people are stretching. They're warming up their legs. What they're actually doing is they're doing their transition ritual from I'm sitting here cold, not even moving my body, to now I need to move my body, stretch out, get warmed up, get my body ready, my mind ready for this crazy sprint that I'm about ready to do. And if you really think about what we do, that's kind of our warm up. So like our transition time between work and between home life could be like this beautiful warm up that we have, right? It's kind of like getting ready for a race, getting ready for a football game, getting ready if you have a daughter, getting ready for the cheer competition, whatever that is. But they do something to transition from basically this cold mind and this cold body into this mind that's ready to rock and roll and a body that's warmed up and ready to move. So you are no different whatsoever. So make sure you take advantage of that. Also, number 2, this is something that I did, early on. It's sharing age appropriate context with your kids. So like, for instance, my 2 older kids, the 17-year-old and the 19-year-old, they're at that age now where they're young adults, and I can talk to them about things that are probably bigger now and things that kind of might stress me out a little bit more. So like, I know I mentioned in the intro, like if the Dow Jones Industrial goes down or your stocks go down, like my kids fully understand that now, and I can actually have very fruitful conversations with them, about certain things that are happening, like in the economy or in the world or in politics or in faith or something like that. So those conversations over the years have gotten deeper, and they have gotten more in the trenches of things that matter, right? So, however, I'm not going to talk about my stock portfolio or the Dow Jones Industrial or a 401k or anything like that with my 9-year-old, because he's not going to understand that. He probably also won't really understand if there's something political going on that I don't agree with that might have me stressed out. He's not going to really understand that, right? So I want to keep these things age appropriate. So like, for instance, I could say something along the lines of, if it's my 9-year-old, and let's just say, the stock market has a bad day and you see a huge loss in your portfolio, and you're like, oh, wow, that really sucks. And it's weighing heavy on you, right? And your kid comes to you and be like, well, son, the Dow Jones Industrial dropped by 5% today, and dad's retirement took a hit, and so did your college fund. He's not going to understand that whatsoever, but he will understand. He's like, son, there's some things going on in the world right now that kind of has dad's attention. And be quite honest, dad's probably giving a little too much attention to this. But at the same time, something on dad's mind, something dad's preoccupied with, kind of like when you have a lot of homework and you're like, oh, I don't really want to do this homework, but like it's still there. You still got to do it. So it's explaining to them what stress is, what overwhelm is, without getting into the weeds. So that is something that I think is really, really important. Share age appropriate context. Final thing is this, protect one anchor moment daily. So like, for instance, a lot of families, I'll share this really, really quickly, and I'm going to digress here for a second. I'm a huge fan of John Deloney. If you guys don't know who Dr. John Deloney is over at Ramsey Solutions, he's going to be one of the successors for Dave Ramsey. He wrote the book, Building a Non-Anxious Life. I've had him on the podcast twice. And I'll tell you, I love all of his work. And one of the things that John says is that travel baseball and travel soccer is ruining the American family. And why does he say that? It's because it takes us away from the dinner table, to be quite honest. Like, that's one of the biggest complaints. It actually takes us away from that one anchoring moment that we have with our families per day, and that's a meal. And if you think about it, like, I think it was probably, 40s, 50s, and 60s where, families traditionally always ate dinner together. It was actually kind of uncommon that families didn't eat together. But, as demands got higher and things got busier in the world, and sports and youth athletics got crazier and crazier and more competitive, suddenly we've kind of like, backed off the dinner table a little bit. Another thing that's might have been backed off for quite some time now is the bedtime rituals. Our saying goodnight to our kids in certain ways, or reading them bedtime stories, or reading the Bible with them, or having conversations with them about their day and the things that were awesome or the things that were challenging or anything like that. It could also be an anchoring moment, like a lot of people out there, a lot of married couples out there, they want to get up early and they want to start their day with a morning coffee with their wife, and that's like an anchoring moment with their significant other. It might be even, a conversation that while you're laying in bed with your wife, you have a conversation about your day and you talk and you connect, and that's an anchoring moment. But one of the things that we have to do is we have to make sure that we are protective, so protective of these anchoring moments with our families every single day. And if you think about it, like, so for instance, in my family, the family dinner get-togethers, I would say for the most part, are almost a non-negotiable. You will always find, no matter how busy the Hagners are, you will find us almost every night gathered around the dinner table in some way, shape, or form. I wouldn't say some, I've got older kids now, so it's hard to get everybody, but I would say on average, even with a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old and all kinds of, and we've got kids got jobs, they got school, they got practices, they got homework, they got friends and girlfriends and all this stuff. I mean, we're battling with a lot of things for their time, but I would say at least 70% of the time, 7 out of 10 days, you'll find us at the dinner table, which I think is a really special thing, because that is something that I think is really, really lost. And I think that's something that we could easily get back to, is meals around the table. I mean, if you really talk to people who are adults now, some of their most fondest memories and bonding moments were over a daily family meal, So even if you can't do that always throughout the week, I know a couple, there's a couple of people in our community that anchor a family meal in maybe a different way. So like, for instance, I have a one-on-one client that every Sunday they go out to lunch. Out to breakfast after church on Sundays. So like, one of their anchoring things every single week is to have breakfast together on Sundays after church, or they go out to lunch, after church on Sundays or something like that, or Sunday family dinner. That's hopefully for most people, that's hopefully maybe a more calm night, unless you got sports or activities going on. But usually you can dial a Sunday in pretty easily and get that family time in that you truly want. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys to do though this week. Pick one ritual that protects the family's emotional economy, right? I love that term. Protect your family's emotional economy. Even if the outside world feels uncertain, because let's face it, right now, it really, really does. It does. I don't care who you are, where you live, or what's going on. The world feels really uncertain. It feels really scary to some people right now. And I'll tell you, but you can actually make your home one of the safest places in the world for you to land, for your kids to land. And that's what's really, really important. And here's the deal. The world is crazy. The world is nuts. Okay. Stress at work, pressure in the economy. It all feels heavy right now, all of it. But your family doesn't need a stressed out provider who is just surviving. And I can tell you guys this, man. I could get every single one of my family members on this microphone right now, and I can ask them, do you want your dad to be a stressed out provider who is surviving? They would all tell you no. They want a grounded leader who is thriving, right? Now that's impossible all the time, but we can really improve our ratio of being thriving versus surviving. So we can really flip that on its head. And this is what I challenge you with this week. Like I said, choose one ritual that protects your emotional economy within your family. Maybe it's shaking off the day before you walk in. Maybe it's finding some sort of new transition ritual to make you just a little bit more sane, a little bit more pleasant in the evening. Maybe it's anchoring, just one family meal per week at the dinner table. But whatever it is, make it non-negotiable. And listen, if you're hearing this and you know that you need more tips, and if you're ready to live this out with other men who are holding you to this standard, this is exactly what we do in the Dad Edge Alliance. And it's where everyday men just like you sharpen their marriages, they sharpen fatherhood, they sharpen their health, they sharpen their leadership. That's what this is all about. Because I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you something that you already know. Building the life that you want, building the family that you want, it's not as easy as what we think, right? And we think it should be easy, but it's not. It's actually very difficult. And the faster and the noisier and the more stressful the world becomes, the crazier our home life could become. So for all my guys out there who are career guys, this is one of the reasons of several I developed the Dad Edge Alliance. And if you're a business owner, like I said, you're already building a company, and you are probably out there just slaying dragons. you're out there kicking ass, you're taking names, you're building empires, you're leading teams, but you didn't build a company, a team, and an empire to settle for a mediocre marriage. And family is one of the hardest games that there is. That is why I created the Dad Edge Business Owner Brotherhood. And this is for our elite entrepreneurs who refuse to settle for mediocrity in their marriages and the fatherhood and business health and wealth. So for all my career guys out there, the Alliance is for you. For all my business owners out there, the Dad Edge Business Brotherhood is for you. You can find both because this is what we do. Everything that we talk about on this podcast, we live within real life within these programs, and we hold men to a standard, and we do it together. It's actually a lot of fun. It's way more fun than trying to do this solo. It's way more fun than trying to figure this out on your own. Gentlemen, head on over to thedadedge.com/mastermind for both of those pathways. Both of those pathways. On the left, you'll see the Dad Edge Alliance. On the right, you'll see the Dad Edge Business Brotherhood. I hope to see you in there. You got to apply. You got to book a call. And I'll tell you what, life gets much richer. It gets much better. It gets much more interesting and much more fun when we are doing it together. One of my most favorite quotes was this: if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And we can go together by going over to thedadedge.com/mastermind. Head over there. Join us. You won't regret it. You absolutely won't regret it. Gentlemen, from my heart to yours, go out. Live legendary. Take care.